From the front pages of your newspaper to the in front of your television screen, we transport you to the world of visual to print. And this is The Headliner, where we take you around the trending stories of the week. My name is Monica Chanda.
Yes, indeed, and my name is Kurtley Gwindi. This is your pulse to the passport that take you straight to the world of media. And of course, today we are delving into a captivating story that has been making headlines in Zimbabwe as the country commits itself to fight corruption. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, ZACC, summons the senior Vehicle Inspectorate Department, which is also known as a VID officer, to explain the source of his substantial wealth, including 7 houses, a lodge, and 7 vehicles. Imagine that, Monica. This case has sparked significant interest and, of course, raised important questions about transparency, accountability, as well as the fight against corruption. Join us in the second segment as we explore details of this very trivial story. And, Monica, as we begin, of course, we always have headlines to share.
Well, we always have those headlines to share, and we have him once again joining us on The Headliner. And it's always interesting to have journalists who are so broadened in their scope when we're looking at different stories, from your social to your economic to your political. It's everything in between. Latwell, thank you so much for coming back to The Headliner.
I'm actually happy, Mo, to welcome me here again.
Yes.
But I'm sure this is my second time.
Yes.
Second time is even getting better.
And I'm actually seeing that you have more energy than the previous
Oh, we love it.
It's Afcon.
We love it here.
Maybe you should donate the energy to others.
So
They can come and draw some of it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
But well, we'll be joining us for that conversation in the second segment. But first and foremost, let's get straight into some of those stories that made the headlines this week. And the first story on the Headliner, The Herald, Botswana in high BNC session, and Zimbabwe-Botswana set for a historic engagement where the two countries convene the high-level 4th session of the Botswana Binational Commission, and the high-level meeting also set to further solidify the bilateral relations between the two countries. As you all know, we have different corporations in areas of trade, tourism, health, transport, infrastructural development, among many other issues, defense also included. So we have this headline, the neighboring countries unlocking avenues for collaboration. And so we have our journalist Latwell Nyangu in studio, who will, of course, be helping us unpack this very critical and relevant conversation, especially in the first quarter of the year, where we also get to touch on the economic outlook for Zimbabwe.
Of course. And we move on with the headline that is looking at the Financial Gazette. And this is speaking to do more to boost the industry. Is the government being told that? The question is, as captains of industry and all commerce is calling authorities to do more to protect local businesses and make them more competitive. This comes after the government reimposed customs duty on 12 basic commodities, and the business leaders cheered the move, of course, in their interest. And this is adding to this that will help lift the country's ailing economy. Now, quite an interesting headline there that we'll be unpacking as we go. We move on to the next story, Monica.
The Daily News coming through with another story, and no hope for opposition now. Tsenangamu says, as he also lays into Chamisa Godfrey Tsenangamu, asserting that the former Coalition for Citizens Coalition for Change CCC leader Chamisa will forever be haunted by his alleged political selfishness, even if he forms another new party. So we did have a conversation. The last headliner, we had Wellington Makonese, and we were talking prior to the by-elections which took place. That was on the 3rd of February. But it would be nice for us to also just try and dissect the political landscape in terms of issues of opposition. You know, and just having an appreciation of some of the issues coming from the different political analysts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure we'll be doing that as we go forward here on the Headliner, and we'll be tracking the story as we go. We move on to the Chronicle that has tagged "Public Welcomes Death Penalty Scraping." And the move by government to abolish the death penalty has been welcomed, with lawyers and human rights activists describing it as an archaic law that does not resonate with the present times and Christian ethos and values. Yes, a law amongst laws, quite a fascinating development that has happened. We will be also tracking, it's obviously law versus ethos, values and Christianity.
But at the end of the day, I know it's a very contentious issue, debate around the death penalty, but I know that the particular bill in relation to the death penalty debate, you know, that bill which was gazetted, and we will be having the members of parliament debating it, and so the conversation will continue. Death penalty or not?
Absolutely.
Of course, the crust of the matter always lies with the hangman.
Yes. And yes, we get to hear more about that. But definitely, that is all we have with regards to the first segment, where we look at the leading stories that have been carrying us through the week. And please do join us in the next segment, where we take a look at all this and more.
Once again, welcome to the Headliner, and this is the second segment where we'll be joined by our guest, Latwell Nyangu, joining us for this conversation around the VID debacle. And Latwell, thank you for joining us on the Headliner. Welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think this story is very interesting. It's of public interest because, but one thing, allow me to quote what Tom Stoppard said when he talked about journalism. He said that if your aim is to change the world, journalism is the immediate way. You want to say that many people depend on the media. So looking at this case, media exposes corruption.
Absolutely.
We are the watchdog role. Yeah.
And in this case, a VID officer, a business tycoon owning 7 houses, lodged 7 vehicles. And one would probably ask, is this too much for a VID officer to own?
I think there is needed to consider a lot of things here. Probably there are more investigations we need to be carried out, tracing on when he started working. But when you are in the public office, you'll be always under scrutiny.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. That's why ZACC's coming in. And that's why even the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission is investigating this particular matter. You know, the senior Vehicle Inspectorate Department. So the factors that then lead to this particular decision to cover this particular case. Let's look at it from the context of unearthing corrupt activities, especially government departments and the country as a whole.
Oh, yes.
Because when we're looking at corruption, the more we do around unearthing corruption and dealing with corruption, it also puts the face of the country in a positive light. We speak investors. It means the ease of doing business, the perception becomes even more positive. But this particular issue with ZACC involved.
Okay, that's very true. I think when you're a journalist, you need to establish what we call a source base, where you get some information from the people. But in this case, probably we work with the ZACC officials. They can actually be our whistleblowers. But I'm sure there is someone who was disgruntled. But this case is not the first time of it. Because there are so many cases. Probably this is a tip of an iceberg.
Absolutely. So quite frankly, you might be speaking to volumes of this kind of thing happening, perhaps even within the Beitbridge community. But perhaps let's talk about the impact that it may carry with regards to what is transpiring in this community. Let's talk issues like accountability, transparency, the bigger picture itself with regards to, you know, how people are feeling around perhaps one, serving public office, and secondly, also appreciating what is happening in the community and seeing the greater picture of things.
Yeah, actually, this is actually a negative impact to the community because it's more like we have a cake here and we are not benefiting from the cake and only a few individuals. So by exposing this will help the community because they also celebrate. How can an individual own a fleet of cars yet is only working in a public office? Yet there are so many people out there. For you to get a car, you have to sweat. But some are just getting it overnight.
But does this also speak to, bring it back to the media fraternity, investigative journalism, does it speak more to why it is important for journalists to invest more in investigative journalism and unearth such activities which would probably impact heavily on the country as a whole?
Definitely. Journalists, they are the watchdog. Actually, they actually unearth all these things. So it is our duty to educate and to actually monitor as well as create a report and expose all these acts. But the issue of corruption, it's actually a long story. Corruption seems to be everywhere.
Latwell, quite frankly, perhaps let's have.
But we're not condoning it.
Let's have an appreciation, perhaps, Monica. Maybe you can shed more light on this. Are people who serve in public office or anyone within the space that perhaps this VID officer is in, are they not allowed to run private businesses or to be in spaces perhaps undeclared or declared, but perhaps have other ways of streaming in income? Is that not allowed?
I think it's allowed, but probably we need to stress where is the source of income.
Declared.
So it's declaring is...
I'm sure there's a point where all the public individuals were supposed to declare their assets.
Yes.
I don't know where it could go.
Where is that place? Because we're raising awareness here. That's what we are doing on the Headliner. And perhaps you could shed light as to how best someone won't be under scrutiny. Perhaps Monica has 7 houses, 1 lodge and 7 cars as we speak.
It's not easy though
to
say that you are earning $200 and you wake up having 4 cars, 7 houses and a lot of stuff. Probably we need to tell us where you're getting the money.
Okay.
That's where the worry is. No wonder why ZACC had to come in to find out what is the source of money for him to earn all these things. Probably they will need to consider, no wonder why they had to seek the High Court interdiction to say, hold these guys to do any other things. We need to find out what is the source of money.
After all, they're trying to ensure that when it comes to public government institutions, integrity, transparency, accountability are at play. So it is coming at a time where we are also in the last phases of the National Development Strategy 1, which also speaks to issues of governance. And when we're speaking of governance, it means also touching on issues of corruption. But I want you to also address the matter around ethics. Ethically, how do we draw ethics into context in relation to this matter, but then looking at not just government employees, but then the generality of the populace? Ethics at play.
I think ethics apply everywhere, especially to journalists. When a journalist, you have to play the accurate, the truthful, and the objective role, which are the most cornerstone of journalism, as well as actually quality control. So when you report issues to concerning corruption, it shows that you are also serving the public interest as well as the governance. Because no wonder why the government is to come up with the commission that watches people who are doing the corrupt activities. So the journalism thing will come in playing the ethical role to expose all these acts.
Okay. And Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption has, of course, been making strides with regards to hounding as well as tracking all those who are playing a major role with regards to bringing the economy down as well as slowing down the growth of our nation through corruption. But most definitely we have to wrap up this very exciting segment that we've been I think dropping gems with Latwell, Monica.
Going to pick his brain for more of those. You know, he's a philosopher.
Yes. Thank you so much.
He's a philosopher.
I heard 2 quotes during this particular segment that I've written down. So thank you so much, Latwell, for joining us. And most definitely, we look forward to having more conversations with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me here. Absolutely. Probably when you are called twice, thrice, it shows probably you have something.
You're doing something right. You're doing something right.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely, and that puts a wrap to this particular segment here on The Headliner. Please do stay tuned as we bring you more. The Editor's Choice coming right up.
Hello and welcome to the program, The Headliner, and this is the third and final segment. I must say it is my favorite segment because we get into all things banter, and today we're taking a look at Afcon, and yay, I'm here for it. We'll be looking at what will be taking place and just having an analysis, appreciation of how the games went. I mean, 24 teams. And so much more, Curtly. Were you watching?
24 teams indeed, Monica. We are looking at a time where we're paying attention to the final stages. And joining us in studio to talk about all this and more, we talk about the man next to me. Some call him the Dark Chocolate, the sports maestro who's been taking you with regards to tracking of everything Afcon throughout this season, which I can say has been jam-packed. Innocent?
Oh, thank you very much. This is a bit weird for me because I'm usually seated somewhere there. So it's a bit weird for me. But yeah, we are going to be talking about the Africa Cup of Nations, which has been an extremely exciting tournament. First of all, let's talk about the refereeing, which has been on point. I think Africa has done what Europe is failing to do, and that is to use VAR efficiently. And we've seen throughout this tournament that VAR has been used efficiently and correctly by the African referees, and well done to the African referees there. And we've also seen, I don't know whether it's VAR, guys, or it's just been the quality of football that is a bit different at this Africa Cup of Nations. We have seen small teams such as Cape Verde, we've seen the DRC, we've seen South Africa moving on to the knockout stages of the Africa Cup of Nations.
Oh, yes.
And this is testament. Yes, I said VAR, but also the fact that the football associations in those respective countries have taken football really seriously and have invested in their football. Let's take, for example, our Southern African neighbor, South Africa. They had 8 players that are playing in the national team coming from Sundowns.
I mean, it was like a Sundown affair, and I have to give it to them. Sundown had a pretty good season. They did win the Premiership, and then they had the female Sundowns team also took that Africa Championship. But coming back to Afcon itself, I know they seem to be some sort of underdogs of sorts. South Africa, sadly, when they played against the Super Eagles, Nigeria, and I know Curtly was obviously going to start talking about, is it Amapiano or is it Afrobeats?
Is it Afrobeats?
But
Absolutely.
Again,
that's a conversation that we're going to have to track
for another day.
A bit later, yeah.
But then, Innocent, let's talk about let's have an appreciation from your point of view. Having started host nation Cote d'Ivoire hosting the tournament itself, having the group stages and even getting to the round of 16, because I think that's where a lot of the drama took place. A lot of thrills and skills and spills.
A lot of the drama actually happened in the group stages where we saw the likes of Cape Verde surprising nations such as Ghana. Well, they're considered a big nation, but the last time they won the Africa Cup of Nations, I don't think either of you were born in 1982.
Oh, yeah.
Cape Verde doing wonders there. We had the likes of South Africa also doing wonders there. But the surprises that happened in the knockout stages, and I think the biggest surprise was to have Cote d'Ivoire reaching the final of the Africa Cup of Nations.
So let's track down to the final, because we're looking at a time where, I don't know, perhaps in my view and opinion, 2 unlikely teams, the Super Eagles have come to the stand, and we are looking at a time now where we're going to have an appreciation of this clash of titans, according to the statistics and the results.
3 against 2
that have, exactly.
trophies so far.
Exactly. So what would you attribute the success of these teams that have come to this final to be clashing together, and perhaps you know, in an African context, very unlikely, but it's happening.
Well, it's pretty likely for Nigeria because they were pretty dominant in their group stages, although I might point out that their fans were not very happy. Remember, just before the Africa Cup of Nations, we had that round of World Cup qualifiers in which Nigeria drew against the likes of Zimbabwe and Rwanda, and the fans weren't happy. They were calling for the coach's head. That's Hodson's head. And but they've transformed. They've gone into the knockout stages of the Africa Cup of Nations, only conceding 1 goal against Equatorial Guinea. The next time that they conceded a goal was against South Africa, and that was a penalty late on.
Oh, yes.
Testament of how good their defense is. But the problem that has been there for Nigeria was the goal scoring part. They've got the reigning African Footballer of the Year, Osimhen. He's finding it difficult to find the back of the net. They've got the likes of Leicester City striker Kelechi Iheanacho. He scored the winning penalty against South Africa, but still finding it very difficult to score goals. But that is not affecting them that much because their defensive record has been pretty good. And now looking at Ivory Coast and whether they deserve to be in the Africa Cup of Nations final, if you ask me, they've been riding on their luck. Remember, these are the same guys that lost 4-0.
Home ground advantage.
Yeah, but that in itself, innocent, we're looking at, you know, a team that has someone from the Premier League. We're looking at statistics and figures that have a track record of international expertise.
Yeah, but international expertise, yes, you might talk about it, but then how do you explain South Africa being in the semi-final of the Africa Cup of Nations? Because they had mostly, I think, 2 or 3 players that were playing international. They had mostly Sundowns players, but you would find they were playing like a team, and if you find that Sundowns, they've been very successful on the club scenario, and they've translated that into the national team. They've been playing like a cohesive a team, unlike Cote d'Ivoire, who have just, I don't think they even have clicked. They've got the likes of Sangare, Kessie, Holler. They've got a plethora of very talented individuals, but going to the final of the Africa Cup of Nations, I can tell you there's one performance, and that was against Senegal, that I would say, all right, fine, Cote d'Ivoire were doing very well. Other than that, they fluked their way all the way to
so it's a stroke of luck.
It's a stroke of luck.
Definitely stroke of luck.
Do you know the last time that we saw this in football was in 2016 when Portugal drew all their group games and drew all the way to the final in 2016 to win the Euro 2026, the 2016. And I bet you on Sunday, when Cote d'Ivoire do play against Nigeria, we will find Cote d'Ivoire lifting that trophy, and we'll be sitting here thinking...
Oh, that's your view and opinion. This is me speaking Afrobeats, and
allowed.
you clearly... You know what? Is this your view too, Monica?
You know what? It's obviously the ultimate prize on Sunday, but then we have the 3rd place playoff, which will be taking place. South Africa will be playing
against
DRC.
Yeah.
And it's most unfortunate because some of us would have hoped that the trophy would have come to Southern Africa. But again, it's going back to
Says
West
the lady
Africa.
with the South African haircut herself. But let's wind up the 3rd segment, Innocent. Thank you so much for joining us. As per usual, you'll be talking sport, but I also feel like we'll be inviting you to talk a little bit more about Amapiano versus Afrobeats.
I think Afrobeats is way better, don't you think?
This is the headliner. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kurtley Gwindi.
And my name is Monica Chenda. This has been the 3rd segment. And as always, like I said, we always promise you banter. And the guests, they're always full of excitement. It's laughs and everything else. But we always intend to inform, educate, and obviously entertain you along the way. It's those trending stories and more on the headliner. The crew behind the scenes, catch the headliner on your ZBC TV, on our YouTube page, and keep trending with us on the headliner. My name is Monica Chanda.
And I'm Kurtley Gwindi. Please, until next time, Innocent will give us the darkness as we go.